Daniel would have had these roughly the time of Daniel having these prophecies. So you can see when this all took place, or D. Okay, 3 kings will arise in Persia. 3 more kings. And the 3 kings after, well, who is the current king is the first question.
Cyrus.
Cyrus, also Darius.
And Darius.
Which makes it a little confusing, because it's either 3 kings after Darius, in which case it would be Cyrus would be counted as one of them, and Cambyses, and Darius Hystaspes. Or it's 3 kings after Cyrus, in which case, because it does say in Daniel 10:1, this is the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, in which case it'd be Cambyses, Pseudo-Smyrtus, who was an impostor, but he did reign 7 months, and Darius Hystaspes. Either way, there were 3 kings that you can measure from there. What's the next statement in verse 2?
And the 4th shall be far richer than them all.
Okay. A 4th king, far richer than them all. Actually, keep going on, sorry.
By his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Greece.
Okay, very interesting, because now he's getting into very specifics. He talks about Persia, and he talks about Greece. And he says, this person is the 4th king, richer, he uses strength to stir up Greece. Xerxes was the next king. This happened in, he reigned from 404 BC to 383, so I'll put that right around here is the event he's talking about. He was famous for his wealth. In fact, he's mentioned in the scripture. Esther 1:1 is a reference to Xerxes. He was the one during that time period amassing an army of 800,000 or more against Greece, but he did have a shameful defeat. All right, go on to the next verse.
Then a mighty king shall arise, who shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will.
Keep on.
And when he has arisen, his kingdom shall be broken up and divided toward the 4 winds of heaven, but not among his posterity.
Okay, so stop there. Do you have an idea who the mighty king is who is going to arise? And then his kingdom is going to be broken up into 4.
Alexander the Great.
That's it. The mighty king is Alexander the Great, king of Greece. He came 100 years after Xerxes, who was the first one we just mentioned, invasion, but attacked Persia to avenge that invasion. So Alexander the Great would be about 330, right about here is now the event that's being talked about. Excuse me. And he comes, and this kingdom, and then where does it say in verse 4?
And when he has arisen, his kingdom shall be broken up and divided toward the 4 winds of heaven.
Okay, we've talked about that before. The 4 winds of heaven, he goes in the cardinal directions, and there was a prophecy about that, how his kingdom was divided into 4 after he died. Go on.
But not among his posterity.
Okay, and interesting, it's not going to be among his posterity. After Alexander's death, one of his wives murdered the other wife. His brother and another wife of his were killed by his mom. His mom was killed by soldiers in revenge. His son and other wife were killed by Cassander, who was the ruler of Macedonia. His other son and other wife were murdered, so that less than 15 years after his death, none of his family survived. So not his posterity is because there's going to be dominion that has nothing to do with his own family. Okay, go on.
But not among his posterity, nor according to his dominion.
Okay, not by his dominion. None of the succeeding rulers had the absolute power or territory that Alexander did. Go on.
Nor according to his dominion with which he ruled, for his kingdom shall be uprooted, even for others besides these.
Okay, others will reign. Others besides, it says kingdom will be uprooted and others will come besides these. Either these others refer to other rulers who reigned over small fragments of the empire in time, or others besides his family would reign. All right, so now we're at the next verse.
Verse 5. Also, the king of the south shall become strong.
Okay, so now we have to pause. You remember when Alexander the Great was defeated, split into 4 sections, one to the north, the south, the east, and the west. So now it's the rest of the time is actually going to focus on that division of Greece, and specifically the two that are going to focus on the king of the north and the king of the south. So I say the king of the south is Egypt. Why do I say that? If you skip to verse 8, what does it say there?
And he shall also carry their gods captive to Egypt, with their princes and their precious articles of silver and gold, and he shall continue more years than the king of the north.
Yeah, contrast. You have to, if you play around, so it says specifically there in Egypt. There's 3 other passages that it does the same thing. You start reading in the context, and instead of saying king of south, it says Egypt. So that one is pretty clearly said here. The king of the north, you can tell by just the context of the events that this is going to be referring to Syria, and I actually put it in the direction so you can think of North Syria, South Egypt. Those were the ones that grew up the most strong after Alexander the Great in Greece's divisions. Okay. So now go back to verse 11, verse 5.
Also the king of the south shall become strong, as well as one of his princes, and he shall gain power over him.
Okay, start that. The king of the south will become strong. The king of the south would be Ptolemy Lagus, made Egypt strong, and I'll write that here. The king of the south. Okay, so the king here would be crown. All right, he will become strong. Go on in verse 5.
As well as one of his princes.
Okay. A prince of Alexander the Great, Seleucus Nicanor, he was formerly a ruler, a subordinate ruler of Ptolemy, became king of Syria. So this is a man who became strong here, even though he used to go over there. And it talks about one of his princes will become strong. So I'm going to do okay. Name is Seleucus, and I'll just put this up here again for our clarification. You remember these guys from your studies? You remember Seleucus Nicanor? Okay, we're learning new things. It's great. So he is the king here who also became strong. So these two, as we talked about, is maybe I can even help here. The horns. You know, this is the to the north, to the south, and then to the east and to the west. The other horn. So the Grecian Empire split up into all of these sections, and I should put as well. Sorry. We're now in the realm of about right about here actually now, about 3, almost all the way to 300 BC is where we're talking about when the kingdom that was Greece has split up at this point. Okay, so go on.
And he shall gain power over him.
Okay, so that prince right here will gain power over him here.
And have dominion.
Okay, and have dominion. Seleucus had more land and power than Ptolemy, just like I said. Go on, verse 6.
His dominion shall be a great dominion. And at the end of some years they shall join forces. For the daughter of the king of the south shall
so there. At the end of some years, what will happen with these two?
They'll join forces.
They'll join forces. 70 years after Alexander's death, these kingdoms united, at least superficially, as it's going to explain, and that's going to be right around that time, 250 BC. So it skips now ahead because this is the main event here. They joined forces. All right. Go on.
For the daughter of the king of the south shall go to the king of the north to make an agreement.
Okay. This is where I always think, like, how specific. Daniel, I put the D that Daniel wrote here. Now he's talking about events 200 years later, and listen to the event. The daughter of the king of the south will make an agreement with the north king. What happened? Ptolemy's daughter Bernice was offered to the king of Syria if he would agree to get rid of his wife and disinherit his son, is what actually happened. Go on to the next part of that.
But she shall not retain the power of her authority, and neither he nor his authority shall stand.
Okay. When Ptolemy died, Antiochus, who became the king of Syria, I got another king here mentioned. Alright. Antiochus divorced the daughter Bernice and took back his former wife. In turn, his former wife poisoned Antiochus and caused the death of Bernice and Bernice's son, making her own son the king. So what does it say? She won't retain her power or authority, and neither will the king of the south. Both of them, all in this little agreement that they made where he gave his daughter up to marriage, they both all of a sudden lost it because the former wife came back and took revenge.
Is that Antiochus Epiphanes?
No.
Different one.
Different one, right. Antiochus Epiphanes is going to be 150 BC. You'll see a lot of him in a bit. All right, go on.
But she shall be given up with those who brought her, and with him who begot her.
Okay. She will be given up with who?
With those who brought her.
Those who brought her. Bernice, the woman, was killed along with the attendants that she had brought from Egypt. All of them were killed in this revenge that happened. Okay, I'm sorry. This is amazing. you gotta be honest. This is 200 years before it happened, and the specificity which God showed these events happening. Okay, this king will go here. This king will go here. You understand why people have to late date Daniel, because this is so specific. You never could get around it. Okay, go on.
And with him who strengthened her in those times. But from a branch of her roots...
And he who strengthened her was given up. Probably refers to a counselor or advisor that was killed with her. Or it could refer to her husband or father who both died before she did and couldn't help her. Go on.
Verse 7.
Mm-hmm.
But from a branch of her roots one shall rise in his place, who shall come with an army.
Okay, just from your own guess, maybe, what do you think a branch of her roots would that mean?
A descendant?
A descendant, or at least a relation. But what happened was a man named Ptolemy Euergetes was her brother, and he came with an army from Lesser Asia to avenge his sister. So there's a branch of her roots who came with the army, the same roots that she had. The brother came. Okay, go on.
Who shall come with an army, enter the fortress of the king of the north.
Okay, he's going to come. He's raising up an army. He goes to the fortress of the king of the north.
And deal with them and prevail.
Hold on. Okay. The Ptolemy Euergetes took many strong and fortified cities of Syria, so he did prevail at that time. Verse 8.
And he shall also carry their gods captive to Egypt.
Okay, stop there. Remember, king of the south is Egypt. He will carry their gods captive to Egypt. He took many of their riches and roughly, listen to this, 2,500 gods back to Egypt with him. Okay, again, we're talking about now, this time period is around 250 BC. It happened exactly how it said. These were vessels that Cambyses, king of Persia, captured from Egypt. Therefore, the Egyptians felt indebted to get them back. Okay, next.
Carry their gods captive to Egypt with their princes and their precious articles of silver and gold.
Okay, they'll take precious articles of silver and gold. He took roughly 40,000 talents of silver and precious vessels back with him. Go on.
And he shall continue more years than the king of the north.
Okay, he will continue more years than the king of the north. Ptolemy, and I'll put his name here so we remember who we're talking about. I don't know how to pronounce it, so maybe you guys can help me here. Euergetes. Euergetes? That's how any other guesses?
Yeah, that's about right.
Okay. So Ptolemy Euergetes reigned 4 more years then Seleucus Callinicus, king of Syria. That was the one who came with the revenge thing that happened. So, Seleucus. Okay. Okay, so he says he'll continue more years than the North's king. That's exactly what happened. Go on.
Verse 9. Also the king of the north shall come to the kingdom of the king of the south, but shall return to his own land.
Okay, so read that again. The king of the north
shall come to the kingdom of the king of the south, but shall return to his own land.
Okay, so Ptolemy of the north returned to Egypt after hearing of trouble there. Also Seleucus of the north attempted to invade Egypt, but was defeated by Ptolemy and returned, which is what you taught. Yeah?
We'll be right back.
So that's exactly what happened. He went down and he came back. Go on.
Verse 10. However, his sons shall stir up strife and assemble a multitude of great forces.
Okay. Now we're talking about, if you didn't catch it there, that's the king of the north's sons will produce an army. Seleucus, Cyrenus, which is another name, I won't write it there, and Antiochus, who are sons of the king of the north, gathered a large army to avenge and put themselves as the heads, just like it says. Go on.
And ones shall certainly come and overwhelm and pass through.
Okay, what happened? The Seleucus was killed after reigning only 2 years. Antiochus, though, came with the army and regained Syria from Euergetes. Then he captured other land, even to Raphia, a strong fortress at the entrance of Egypt. So one shall come and overwhelm and pass through. This is roughly around, the death of the first one was 225 BC, and then the reign of the next one was about 225 to 187, so I'll say average of around 200 is now where we're at. All right.
Then he shall return to his fortress and stir up strife.
Okay. So he came to Ptolemy's fortress, Raphia, at the entrance of Egypt. Mm-hmm. Go on.
And the king of the south shall be moved with rage, and go out and fight with him, with the king of the north.
Okay. Ptolemy Philopater, son of Euergetes, king of the south, was notably very lazy, but grew enraged at this and assembled an army to fight at Raphia, just like it says. Go on.
Fight with him, the king of the north, who shall muster a great multitude, but the multitude shall be given into the hand of his enemy.
Okay, so the north king will have a vast army, but will lose a battle. Listen to this. Antiochus, who was the north king, had 62,000 men, 6,000 horses, and 102 elephants, but still lost the battle. Okay? We're now on to verse 2. Now, the time period is about 210 BC of these events. Go on.
Verse 12.
You're 12, yeah.
When he has taken away the multitude, his heart will be lifted up, and he will cast down tens of thousands, but he will not prevail.
Interesting. What does that mean? Well, here's the history. Ptolemy Philopater didn't take advantage of his victory. Remember, he won against that whole big army? And eventually he lost all that power that he had gained. Also, he broke God's law by entering the most holy place. Okay, go on.
For the king of the north will return and muster a multitude greater than the former, and shall certainly come at the end of some years with a great army and much equipment.
Okay, so listen to this. This is in 200 BC. 14 years later, Antiochus returned against the king of Egypt in alliance with Philip, king of Macedon, with roughly 300,000 soldiers. Before it was 62,000. Now it's 300,000 soldiers. He came to return to the king. Okay, go on.
Now in those times many shall rise up against the king of the south.
Okay. Antiochus joined with Philip of Macedon along with some prominent people in Egypt, and they all came together to overtake Ptolemy Epiphanes, who was in the king of the south.
Also violent men of your people shall exalt themselves in fulfillment of the vision,
Okay.
but they shall fall.
Violent men of your people. What would that be? Who are the men of? Who is the your? Maybe start there. Violent men of your people. And remember, it's being spoken by an angel to Daniel. Who's Daniel's people?
Jewish people.
Violent Jews shall exalt themselves. Here's the history. When Egypt prevailed, the Jews sided with the Egyptians to please the king of Egypt and apostatized from their own religion. They warred against Antiochus. Also, later the Jews sided with Antiochus against Ptolemy, revolting from Ptolemy. So they kept going, but they kept kind of forsaking their own faith in that. And you said the Jews failed. Those who joined Ptolemy were destroyed when he became the master of Jerusalem. See Maccabees 1. And the Jews who joined Antiochus failed in their aim of making Judea independent. Both ways, whether it's about here or here, they both failed in their enterprise. Go on to verse 15.
So the king of the north shall come and build a siege mound, and take a fortified city, and the forces of the south shall not withstand him.
Okay, the king of the north, Antiochus Magnus, that's Antiochus the Great, the same king as before, defeats Scopas, the Egyptian general, and chases him to Sidon, a strongly fenced city, where he was forced to surrender. Antiochus took over Ptolemy's fortified cities by casting up mounts. They also used battering engines to throw stones into the cities. Egypt's great soldiers and leaders were sent to deliver Scopas, but weren't able to. So they're just like it says. Go on to verse 16.
Let's finish 15.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Even his choice troops shall have no strength to resist.
Mm-hmm.
But he who comes against him shall do according to his own will, and no one shall stand against him.
Okay, the north king will come against the south and do according to his will. Listen to this. Antiochus the Great, who came against the south king, Ptolemy, took whatever land he pleased. Ptolemy was unable to stop him. Go on.
He shall stand in the glorious land with destruction in his power.
Okay, what is the glorious land? Do you remember what that is?
Promised land.
You got it. The north king will stand in the glorious land with destruction and power. The Jews supplied, yeah?
Mine says beautiful land.
Okay, beautiful land, glorious
Promised
land.
land, gotcha.
Yep. The Jews supplied Antiochus the Great with provisions to conquer the troops. Antiochus used Judea as the land of his army, conquering it with population of his people. Also, actually, I won't even bring that up. Okay, so that's the main thing that I think that the Jews surrounded, or Jews supplied Antiochus the Great, and so Antiochus used Judea. He'll stand in the glorious land with destruction and with power. And that's what he did. Okay, verse 17.
He shall also set his face to enter with the strength of his whole kingdom, and upright ones with him.
Okay, so the north king will seek to enter south kingdom with abundant strength. Antiochus desired to take over Egypt. Good. Go on.
And the upright
you said
ones
upright
with
ones
him.
with him. Who would be the upright ones? Any guesses? Who would be the upright ones? The same as the stars. Let's put it that way.
The righteous ones.
I believe it'd be the Jews. The Jews, and they weren't acting maybe that way, but they were the people, and the Jews aided Antiochus in his scheme. In fact, there's a few verses in the scripture talk about them as the upright ones. Okay, go on.
Thus shall he do, and he shall give him the daughter of women to destroy it, but she shall not
hold
stand
on.
with him.
So the north king now is giving the south king the daughter of women. What does that mean? Destroying it. Listen to this. Antiochus gave Cleopatra, that's his daughter. She was called the daughter of women because she was a virgin with great beauty and accomplishments, or it was because she remained under the care of the women she was first committed to. It's two possibilities on why she would be the daughter of women. She was part of his scheme to destroy Egypt. So the north king gave the south king this woman, Cleopatra, in attempts to do this. Okay, now again, let's just pause here. Are you catching me here? That every single event that happened in these kings in this history has been chronicled up to the point of the daughter giving this and the daughter giving this, and this is all I'm trying to show you. Daniel wrote over here. This is 200 years beforehand. I mean, I'm stopping you at every fragment if you notice that there was a history backing that. Okay, so going on.
He shall give him the daughter of women to destroy it, but she shall not stand with him or be for him.
Okay,
Verse 18.
What's
Mhm.
that?
Go
She
ahead.
will not stand with him. She won't stay on his side. Guess what happened when Cleopatra was given to the south? Any guesses? She sided with her husband after they were married, and she abandoned her father, who gave them up. Just like it says, she won't stay on her side. Okay, go on.
After this, he shall turn his face to the coastlands, and shall take many.
Okay, so afterwards, the north king will turn to the coastlands and take many. So Antiochus gave up on Egypt because he gave his daughter. He tried that out. That didn't work, and so he gave up on Egypt and took a large fleet to capture islands and cities on the Aegean Sea. So he's kind of said, okay, done with Egypt. Go on.
But a ruler shall bring the reproach against them to an end, and with the reproach removed, he shall turn back on him.
Okay. Here's what I'm saying. A ruler shall end the North King's attacks on them and will attack the North King himself. Listen to what happened. The Roman lands, that we're getting in a row now, the Roman lands that had been attacked were avenged by the Scipios, among others, who defeated Antiochus and his troops in many victories, on sea and on land, forcing him to pay 1,000 talents a year for tribute. So all the other, he's trying over here, that didn't work either. The Romans turned against him. Go on to verse 18.
Verse 19.
Verse 19.
Then he shall turn his face toward the fortress of his own land, but he shall stumble and fall, and not be found.
Okay. So, Antiochus, when his people found out he plundered a temple of Jupiter, he was killed. There are multiple theories of how, and perhaps Daniel hints at this in the verse, because it says he will fall and not be found. It's there's kind of like there's a mystery on how we don't know even now, how he died, I guess, in that. Go on.
Verse 20. There shall arise in his place one who imposes taxes on the glorious kingdom.
Okay. What's the glorious kingdom?
Israel.
Okay, so now we have another king rising up in the north after the other died. Seleucus Philopater, Antiochus' eldest son, was noted for his constant raising of taxes. Doesn't it say that? He imposes taxes? He also attempted to plunder money deposited in the temple of Jerusalem, just like it says. Now we're getting, so you can see here, we're getting into, it's about 187 BC, so we're moving on that direction. Okay, go on.
But within a few days he shall be destroyed, but not in anger or in battle.
Okay. How was he destroyed? Any guesses? He was poisoned by his treasurer, who had been sent to plunder Jerusalem's temple after reigning 12 years. Okay, verse 21.
And in his place shall arise a vile person.
Okay, this is the big one. The vile person who rises up. Any guesses?
The little horn.
The little horn, yes. Yeah, the vile person is now, let me get a different color. Do you remember his name?
Antiochus.
It is Antiochus, but you see there's a lot of
Epiphanes.
Antiochus. Yep. That was what he called himself, the great one. Antiochus. Okay. All right. He came at 175 BC, so I'll use this. I guess it's a little more in the middle there. 175 BC. I'll even put A because there's going to be a lot on him still. Okay.
Okay.
Go on.
And in his place shall arise a vile person to whom they will not give the honor of royalty. But he shall come in peaceably and seize the kingdom by intrigue.
Okay. He was not given the honor, but he did come peaceably and seized it by intrigue. What happened? Others claimed the throne when Antiochus came up, and none of the Syrians claimed Epiphanes the king. But Epiphanes flattered the kings of Pergamus, the Romans, and the Syrians, and got their assistance in becoming the king. So he kind of gave this. He was kind of a charmer and like Nikolai Carpathia. That he was this charmer, and he's kind of okay. He made all these deals, and that's how he came in. Go on.
with the force of a flood they shall be swept away from before him and be broken, and also the prince of the
Okay, hold on.
covenant.
They will be swept away by a force of a flood. That is, the others vying for the throne were forced down by him, or the Egyptians fell in a great slaughter by him near the Nile. So either one works for that. Okay, go on.
Verse 23.
No, 22 still.
With the force of a flood they shall be swept away from before him and be broken, and also the prince of the covenant.